Welcome back to Tip TV Politics. We are in the heart of the European Parliament for Inside Europe, and let's start with the talk of the divorce bill. Some say it's up to 50 billion pounds. A Brussels-based think tank Bruegel has estimated that the Brexit bill will be nearer to 25 billion euros. Let's take 25 billion euros. Stephen, is that a realistic figure? And are you happy with the UK paying a single divorce bill to get out of the European Union?
Look, I campaign that Britain should retain its own bills in the future. It retains its own money, but I do recognise, like everybody does, that when you're in a situation of a divorce, that both sides are going to put back the costs that they think are part of this overall plan. Now, I don't think the numbers being bandied around have any real sense in reality at this stage, because it takes quite a time to work out the cost of the building that we're in now. What are the costs of the contributions to the European Investment Bank? What are the costs of the future aspects in Horizon 2020 and projects that they're involved in? And people are going to be drawing those up and then coming to an analysis. And therefore, I would suggest...
So you don't think there's a figure at all at the moment?
I don't think there's a sensible figure out there. I think there's lots of, airy-fairy type of figures. And even this morning, we had...
But it will be in the billions, surely.
Yeah, but we also had analysis this morning from Civitas, who said that the European Union will owe us 675 billion in terms of the assets. So
well, that's the point. Well, let's put
that's the point. You're going to have the pros and cons, and you'll come to a sensible solution. And if there's money is the big problem out of it, then I think that will be where huge arguments will occur.
But you accept that if there is a commitment made by the UK, you're willing to honour that commitment, and that imposes a bill, be it 25 million or more or less, we don't know, but that principle you accept.
Look, and I think everybody has to accept that international relationships involves, sometimes complying with those regulations and the commitments that you've got. But equally, what I'm trying to say here is these are the hardcore figures saying that's what you owe. But on the other side, as you know, with any divorce, one looks at the price of the house that you're in, or whether you've got shares, and that comes into it too.
Do you have a figure in mind? So we've got up to 50 billion pounds.
I haven't done the calculations,
but
I see some elements which are pretty clear. I've been a member of the Budget Committee for 2.5 years. There are commitments, and countries, including the UK, say yes to it, and I want the UK to honour its commitments. That means that there are commitments up to 2020. So if you're committed, you're also supposed to pay. That's clear. Then there is the pensions. Of course, pensions. And unfortunately, I come from a country with a funded system, but here in Brussels they have a pay-as-you-go system. But still, if you want to take a bill, you have to go back to a funded system, see what the value is of the pension commitments in the future. These are elements that are pretty straightforward to me. Of course, there are details to be discussed, but hey, that means that there is a bill for the UK. I don't see how the UK can escape that.
Gerolf, is that something? Does the UK, on principle, have an obligation to pay off all its liabilities during Brexit in the sum of billions?
That is not the discussion. The liabilities, the engagements that they took, they'll have to pay for them. But will they have to pay for engagements that go after their exit? Many of the engagements should stop after the exit. And that is the discussion now. Will they have to take into account in calculating these amounts the fact that Britain should be staying in the Union because they took engagements when they still were in the Union and that have their effects for after the exit.
But certainly
so it is a calculation, but the Brits should be very aware that this calculation could become an emotional matter for those who want to turn the exit into a chaos, just to prove that the exit and Brexit was a chaos matter, was a bad thing.
There is a sentiment in the UK, there is several people, Michael Gove and Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, I think have hinted towards this, that the UK could be owed a rebate in the Brexit process,
owed
money.
Yeah. And that is now the reply, and I would suggest the Britons to reply that they can earn some money also, that is not been taken into account.
Be honest here, the Brexiteers campaigned with the idea we get our money back. That was the general idea.
On the long term they will. On the long term
maybe,
they will.
but now there's a bill to be paid, and you agree with that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In my view, as long as it doesn't take into account things that will have to be paid after their exit. The exit should be a clear cut, a clear deal, and an honest and fair deal without the emotions and the revenge emotions that the Remainers and the European Union have in their minds.
Marco, but isn't it inevitable when you get into sums of money, when you get into sums of billions, and when you get into the emotional cost of Brexit as well, you're not going to be able to separate emotion from stuff like a divorce?
Yes, it's clear. Yes, on the contrary, what I say is to the British people, keep in mind that there is lots of emotion and that many people in the European Union, within this European Parliament, want the Brits to pay for their Brexit.
Do you really think I'm
Yeah,
the emotional
it's-
type? I just explained there are
I'm not-
commitments.
I'm
and
not talking
just,
about you.
You trying to make it emotional. There are commitments.
Yes, it's
Everyone
clear, but
agrees on this, and that means there is a bill. That's
It's-
Well,
period.
let's
Yeah,
bring
but
in
in
Marco.
2020,
It's
should they
not-
pay till
it's-
2020 when they exit
Yeah,
now
it's
next
not-
year?
it's
Don't
not
get
a long-
emotional.
Let's bring in
Don't
Marco
get
Zanni here.
emotional.
It's not a long-term discussion, since I think that UK will be ready to pay for commitments, for example, in the 2020 MFF regulation. So I don't think, since we are reviewing the 2020 MFF, I don't think that UK should pay for additional commitments starting from the date of triggering the Article 50, but it's just a matter of 1 year. I don't know how the EU Commission and the Council calculated this 60 billion deal, but I want just to say one word. When you talk about a divorce bill, you have to take into consideration both the asset side and the liability side. So we are talking just about the liability side, but I think that also the UK is owning or has the right to have a part of the asset of the European Union. So we have to compensate both the side, and it's just a discussion of 1 year. So probably this 60 billion deal is comprehending the commitments starting from 2014 to 2020. So it's not something that will impact the UK budget very sensitively. So it's just a matter of emotion, as it's just a matter of a short-term discussion,
Well,
I
let's
think.
just-
And the UK government has been very clear. We don't want to commit to the EU budget after the Brexit. So it's clear that they will not contribute to the EU budget after 2019-2020.
Right.
That's clear.
Stephen, isn't it right? You're obviously involved in UKIP, you're involved in the Leave campaign, Leave.eu and Vote Leave, and both of them gave the expectation to the British people that money will be coming back and power and control will be coming back to Britain in Brexit. So the concept of a divorce bill is going to be incredibly problematic for the May government and may cause problems in the negotiations.
No, I don't think so. Are we going to be stopping paying the net contributions of around 8 to 9 billion a year after Brexit? Absolutely. Are we going to be taking control of our laws, and it's our House of Lords, House of Commons, and also our own courts that are controlling our own laws? Yes, absolutely. Will we have the opportunity to trade across the globe without having to seek the influence of 27 other nations? Absolutely. The question that all of the people at this table are saying are there commitments that we've done, such as Horizon 2020? Then yes, I think international obligations have to be complied with, but not after the time of Brexit, not after the time of the end of the negotiations. What I hope, a free trade arrangement, and others will have a different hope.
So there is a concession then that the UK will be paying in a sum, unquantified at the moment, but it will be a transfer of money from the UK
You see,
to the EU.
that's the complication, and Marco raises this, and there's different points of view here. I would take the view that you analyse the liabilities, which are a financial cost that's got to be paid, also to the assets. And then you might find a way that the assets exceed the liabilities, but that's what happens in divorces, except we've got the lawyers on our case this time. We've got Barnier versus David Davis.
Okay, that's it for Tip TV Inside Europe this time. Thank you very much to Gerolf Annemans, Marco Zanni, Stephen Wolf, and Paul Tang for coming on this time. Join us again next time we're in the European Parliament for Tip TV Inside Europe. I'm Robert Double. Goodbye.